Hey YouTube, my name is Ishwar and I'm a sixth form student studying maths, physics, CS, and product design. Um, I'm starting a new series on YouTube because I realized that almost everything around us was born in CAD software, and I wanted to see how things are actually made. And so I'm documenting my journey here for myself, basically, but also anyone else starting from zero who can take inspiration from my journey. So as you can see, I'm using Fusion 360 and it usually costs about $500 per year. But as a student, I managed to get an education license for free, which is pretty good because this is pretty expensive. So if you're a student, definitely look into it. It's a massive professional tool at no cost. I mean, there's so many things you can do, but let's get into that. So first, I made a simple box. In this lesson, I didn't learn as much about the box than about engineering. So engineering is all about efficiency and you want to create the least amount of sketches in CAD software possible to get your final shape. And it's about finding the smartest path and not always the easiest one. And then I moved on to a bit more complex part. I used a box and then I added a hole into it. Um, this is actually called an extruded cut, and I actually have a knack for perfection. So in this lesson, I learned how to center holes perfectly, and learning how to align these features were so important for me, and knowing that everything is centered and exactly where I want it to be. And it was a big step for me. After this, I made a kind of a piston guide or a cylinder cap. I use equal constraints in this part where each circle is equal to each other and everything's symmetrical. So there's basically lines going from the center. Um, and that's what I used to at first align these circles. But then, since engineering is about being efficient, I use patterns. So I think it's this one. And you can choose how many circles you want around the circle. And if I choose like eight, it will actually show me eight. And I feel like this is quite an important feature. That's why I actually pinned it to my toolbar. And it actually saves a lot of time. And it's actually the faster and more professional route, I would say. After this is something where I actually fell in love with CAD. Uh, and I made a die. So I use functions and ratios related to the size of the cube. In this cube, I think the size is 4 inches of the entire cube, and as you would know in a die, opposite sides always add up to seven. So there's five here. There should be two on the other side, and vice versa. And on each side, there's a center point that I had to get to using the sketch, and then I used that center point and made lines from the center point to put each bevel or each circle at the correct place or where it's meant to be. And in the end, I used functions to ratio all of these parts to each other. So I can actually show that. These are parameters. If I just move the cube so we can see it changing. So as you can see, there's the dice size, which is the base parameter that I can link everything else to. And there's the divot diameter. So these holes, they're called the divot. I can change the diameter of them and the divot depth. I also added a parameter for the size of the rounded edges of the cube, which also change as the size of the cube changes. So if I change it to 2 here, there you go. Everything is smaller, and the sizes of the diameter of the divots have changed, and the depths of the divots have also changed, which is really good. And I think it's a feature I'm going to use a lot. And I think this is where maths and product design really overlap. So this is really interesting to know. And then my latest project, which I was working on earlier today, is this. It kind of looks like a wheel. I think Apple released wheels for their iMac a while ago. They kind of look like that. So this was basically about reading complex drawings. It used stuff that I already knew. So over here you can see it's curved, and on that side as well. So it used the basic fundamentals I learned in all of the past projects, and these different type of holes and everything. So it really strengthened my abilities that I earned from all of the past projects. And I was able to see a 2D drawing and turn it into 3D reality, which is pretty good. Um, I would say this is just my first milestone, and as the course I'm going through, it's a Learn It course, a YouTube channel called Learn It on YouTube, and they make a lot of Fusion 360 videos. So I'm just using those videos to learn Fusion 360. So as the videos or the course said, the projects are gonna get way more complex from here, which is really exciting. I saw a Raptor hand or like a robotic arm hand that someone made in Fusion 360. So this app clearly has a lot of power, and I can't wait to utilize it. And that's the level I'm aiming for towards the end before I make some parts for cars or airplanes and stuff like that. So yeah, this is just my first milestone, and my projects are gonna get way more complex from here. So thanks for watching the first vlog, and see you next time.